Hey guys, this is gg2 coming to you with another quick battle recording of a 1v1. In this one I'm playing as the Saba, a faction that's traditionally been considered relatively underpowered among Europe-War factions, if not the worst, because of its limited roster and lack of access to really any heavy units, no heavy cavalry, no real armored infantry. In between those, they tend to just get destroyed by missiles. And so that's been their traditional weakness among many others, but it's not just like getting destroyed by missiles, it's just like you don't have great answers to cataphracts, you don't have you have a fairly limited roster and able to be too flexible with your strategies. But you know, it's with the new EDU, I think just some tweaks that have made some of the Saba units just feel more unique in a historical way have really given them breathed new life into the faction, and I've been really enjoying playing them in recent battles. You just have to think differently when you play as the Saba. You can't really play you can't go in and expecting to play a traditional I mean, you can play a traditional, like, I'm going to exchange missiles, etc. at the beginning, but after that, everything sort of just breaks down. And you really need a new plan entirely. And you can't, and you can't be relying on, you don't have a phalanx to just hold the main line. You don't have super armored infantry that you can play. You don't have tight hoplites to place in guard mode. The only hoplites are the Red Sea hoplites, and those are loose formation hoplites. Well armored, or these decently armored big shield, but they're fast and they have very good stamina. They're not a slow hoplite meant to fight in guard mode. And you don't have any heavy armored line infantry. So instead, you just have to play a totally different game. And so my opponent here, Sultan, has brought Balearic Slingers. Not an amazing choice against Saba, just because we don't have armored units, but they're still incredibly deadly at range, and they will get an attack bonus of some amount against my more armored troops. Say especially my bodyguard infantry, or even to a smaller extent my my Sabaean cavalry. But yeah, in any case, I didn't really talk about the armies yet too much. I'm going to sort of do that as the battle moves in, as the strategy unfolds. But just to note to begin, we've started the skirmish phase with 3 units of my Sabaean archers, who are one of the few archer units that have 100... I think actually it might be the only archer unit that has 100 men, but also decent accuracy. Most decent accuracy archer units are 90 or 80 men. And levy accuracy where you get above the 100 men level, just as a balanced decision. So they're up against Cretans and I mean, he's got 4 units of Cretan archers, and he's got 1 unit of these Balearic Slingers, and so he's made a good call in bringing all of these, and because they'll be able to deal a good amount of damage against my main line of infantry, because they're lightly armored, but also will deal we'll be able to support in melee afterwards as well, and they have a lot of arrows, so they can do both roles very well and be an effective counter to my army. In his main line, he's got, but you have to pay for bringing these in some way, and he's also brought Sumr Helmet Bakred and Haparasim Haklosim. In fact, 2 units of the Haparasim Haklosim, which is also probably a good choice against Saba, insofar that we have no heavy cavalry that can truly counter these. We have to take a clever fight against them, otherwise they're just going to beat up whatever cavalry we have. And he's paired them, another good call on his part, with the Parasim Numidim. Light javelins, again, will able to deal massive amounts of damage against my troops as long as you can avoid missiles, and since he's well set up to have missile superiority here with his Cretan archers, then his Parasim Numidim should be protected. But you know, it costs a lot to bring this expensive archer army and these other troops, and so he's had to make some sacrifices here, and he's brought Gyros. So gyros are a unit you're gonna have to play aggressively with these guys. They have they're light, they're cheap. They have an incredible charge and good spear lethality, but they don't have great defenses. And his main line are these Libyan heavy spearmen. Also, probably a good decision for him to take them instead of the heavy Libyan hoplites, simply because they have javelins. And again, Saba's troops are light, so he has 10 units of infantry that can throw javelins at me. The issue is, gyros, you can break them easily. They're cheap, they provide good support, they have a powerful charge, but they don't have staying power in melee. They're 100 men, and yeah, you need to really fight them. You need to really take a good fight. And you need to beat them up. And you can beat them up pretty easily, but they will hold long enough for his cavalry to be able to do supporting work. And these Libyan heavy spearmen will be tough to break in the middle. So the missile duel is still going on. It's almost halfway through the battle, and I haven't even talked about my own army. Real quick, I've brought 3 Sabaean levy spearmen. These are one of the better levies in the game because they have a helmet and a reasonably big shield, and I put a chevron on each of them as well. They have 11 morale base. So they have they may not be much to look at, but they're you know, with the chevron on them, they're costing a little over 1,300. I think it's 1,376 they cost with the chevron, but I'm happy to make that investment as a solid main body. I've put them in guard mode for now, but you know, I'm gonna need to take them out of that. To hold one of the flanks, I've taken the Lochemi Mazilim, the Sabaean noble infantry. They've got javelins, they've got some good morale, they've got some amount of armor. So they're a good choice for holding up a flank position, which will be otherwise tough. I've got these Ethiopian archers here, and I've brought them in. I've been conserving them because I didn't want to waste them because they're very valuable lead archers. And you can see he's already taken the opportunity to take a shot at them because they're so valuable. But he's put his Cretans in a bit of a blob here, and I just want to go ahead and take some pot shots and start dealing some damage to them with my Ethiopians. But, you know, he's moved his guys in so close that he can start getting good shots at my infantry. I don't want that to happen. I got to push these guys back out of their position. And thankfully, my units all have very good stamina because they're all light, but are decently trained. Except for the Sabaean levies, but I don't need to run them too much. So yeah, I just charge forward, and he's got to run the hell away, while my Ethiopians still continue taking pot shots at them from afar and dealing some casualties. For the rest of my army, so I've brought 4 of the Ethiopian assault infantry. These guys, they cost a lot, but they're one of the few veteran units with 100 men, and they've got a very lethal sword, which gives them a really powerful charge, and they've got some heavy javelins as well. And I brought Red Sea light infantry, an axe unit with a powerful axe. Good charge, poor defenses, but they're meant to. These are just completely broad. I'm just like, he's gonna have some tough armored infantry. I need a counter for them, and since I see that he's starting to get the missiles going, I'm just like, nope, it's time to get them in. I can't wait. I have to simply get these guys into melee as soon as possible, and so he correctly charges in his gyros. He gets a good charge off. He manages to quickly deal some damage to my Lochemi Mazilim, but I managed to throw a bunch of javelins into him as well, so he's taking casualties. He gets a charge in, and you can see the initial impact is not great for me. He's got that powerful Celtic charge dealing damage, but these guys are tough enough to last. I've got my Machairo Foray over here, 2 of them on 1 unit of gyros. That unit's going to die fast. I've got my Sabaean levies holding the line, plugging up against these Libyan heavies while my other men are able to do their work. And then I've taking he's sending 2 gyros against my bodyguard. So the bodyguard, oh wow, look at that! You know, they've already lost 20% of their men from that Celtic charge. I have to get in my Ethiopian assaults to support them. And then over here, I've had my I'm like, we can't let his cavalry do a lot of damage. So I got off a good charge with my medium cavalry on his sacred band. He's brought in his Numidians to support. In fact, he got 2 units of Numidians supporting. So this is a really bad... I wouldn't say it's a bad engagement. I mean, my Sabaean medium cavalry are doing their job and giving me time to bring in this light skirmisher unit to throw javelins into his flank. On the other side, there's another cavalry engagement. He's got his general out here, and with another unit of Sacred Band Cav. And I bring in my 2 Ethiopian Hippeis to counter. And these guys, they won't do the best job countering in the world. But, you know, there's a lot of them. And so between those 2 units of Ethiopians, he's outnumbered 2-1. But I didn't want to trust that, just in case because there's a risk that he's able to get an archer unit somewhere in and shoot these guys on the back. And so I need to bring in more troops to kill him. I should have deployed, so I bring in my Ethiopians who have a mace. They're not great at fighting in melee, but if they're able to flank it and do some supporting work against these armored cavalry, they will help a lot. And they are able to help a lot because I destroy his superior cavalry and lose fewer men. And all of a sudden, look at what's going on. He's got his unit of Libyan heavy spears that got double teamed. They've been sitting in guard mode, trying to hold up, and just getting, you know, slowly cut to pieces by my Red Sea light troops, who have not taken very much damage in comparison. He's got his Libyan heavy also in guard mode. So they're holding up well against my troops, but I'm able to get in javelin volleys and bring in my Sabaean lights. I've crushed his gyros with my Ethiopian assault infantry on the other flank. And on this flank, he drove off my medium cavalry, but my victorious Ethiopians are able to come in, appropriate time music, and clean up his Numidians. He's got his Cretans coming in to provide some support, but putting them in against cavalry isn't the best use of them. He should have reinforced his infantry line instead. Maybe like get some flanking shots on some of these dudes and he would have cut them apart. And these guys are still sitting back there. But by this time, I've completely cut through. You could sort of see the power of these Ethiopian assault troops. They cut through everything on the right flank. And, you know, they lost some of their strength, but they lost about 30% of their men and cut through every opponent in their way, and are still... They have reasonably good stamina. So you look at them. They're warmed up. So, yeah, they don't have super amazing defenses, but between their very good stamina and powerful attack, they just able to slice through the enemy and still keep going. And having seen having had all of his cavalry destroyed, I have cavalry supremacy and I have more infantry lying around, and his units are scattered everywhere. And at that point, it's clear that the Sabians have the day, and so Sultan admits defeat. And if we look at these, you use these Ethiopian assaults well. Boom, look at those casualty numbers, 93, 113, 136. A lot of those are just routing gyros that they were able to cut through. You know, I mean, the Ethiopian assaults, they cost more than twice as much as the gyros, so if they aren't doing this sort of job, then I guess that's a problem. But, you know, you saw what happened there. They cut through the enemy, and they were warmed up. They were still ready to go and take another fight. My crappy Red Sea infantry, you can see they got cost-effective trades against his heavy Libyan spearmen. My Sabaean archers took way more casualties than I dealt, but that was expected. My Ethiopian archers, they took a lot, but they provided that critical flanking support to help win that cavalry battle, and they dealt damage to his green archers. My Ethiopian cavalry, man, look at them. And even the Sabaean medium cavalry, they took a relatively even fight despite having to deal with 2 Numidian cavalry units and a Sacred Band cavalry. And I think if Sultan had managed to flank them instead with one of those Numidian cav units, they would have been cut up. But I managed to rush them in and get them into that fight as soon as possible, and they held long enough. They ended up routing, but they held long enough that the rest of my army was able to do their job. Yeah, look, another Sabaean noble infantry, putting them right on the flanks against those inferior opponents. Ouch. So yeah, no, I mean, I was able to I took a good missile engagement that didn't badly bruise my army too much. I put my cavalry in better engagements, and I just gave my infantry the perfect matchups, and they did exactly what they were meant to. And part of this really came from just being unafraid to attack. You can't be afraid to attack as Saba, because you saw his Cretans were creeping forward, and I'm just like, I can't let that happen. I have to make this melee fight. I'm going to move all my army forward, force his Cretans to get out of there, force them behind his infantry so he doesn't have opportunities to have very good missile engagements, and then make this battle happen. And then I have to trust my troops from there. I just have to trust if I put them in the right engagements, they will do their job, and they did. They did exactly what they were meant to do here. And it wasn't even particularly close, which just send the right men at the enemy and boom. Anyways, that's that. I'll be uploading this. I'll plan to continue playing with Saba and experimenting with them. Yeah, play more EB.